Have you ever thought that there might be better belief systems than yours, or closer to God? What can you do to have a spirituality that helps you grow and be happier? Join us on a short spiritual journey to find out, as well as a 100% practical suggestion. Spirituality is one of the most important aspects of life, especially in terms of happiness and well-being. Our beliefs influence that, and a lot. They can bring us closer to, or divert us from, spiritual goals, even while appearing otherwise. Human life is full of challenges, in and of itself, and you know that. Your life is full of challenges, which cannot always be faced with clarity. Of course, there is a large part of human life related to spiritual challenges, which we also have to overcome, understand, and above all use for our growth. Is that really the essence of our life? Most probably. But even if it is more or less obvious that we are endowed with an immortal spirit, whose power is immense, also, in practical terms, overcoming these challenges leads us to find ourselves. With that comes inner peace, well-being and, above all, happiness. Of course, this is a process which every human being, in one way or another, undertakes. Success in this process is largely based on understanding our beliefs and, very practically, on not believing in anything that we cannot verify or at least fully understand. A Chinese proverb says that the undiscerning mind is like the root of a tree that absorbs everything, even the poison that can kill it. That is why we must analyze everything that life brings us, especially because everything we can think of, and more, can be possible. Clarity as to what you believe, and the reasons why you believe it, will help you to visualize and distinguish what works for your life and what does not. In doing so, you will also find practical keys to building or improving your well-being, which is a key requirement for happiness. As more than one song says, when you believe in things you don't understand, suffering comes. Listen to Superstitious by Stevie Wonder, for example. There is also one by singer-songwriter Ricardo Arjona that has a spectacular line. If I were a child again, I wouldn't listen to anyone. They inherit their complexes, their church, and even their football team, which is in line with modern studies in psychology and which some ancient cultures have already discovered for millennia. Read any epic, any biblical or ancient religious story, and you will see for yourself. Most of our beliefs come from other people and relate to other people's experiences, not our own. Of course, with the benefit of the doubt, we can assume that our elders inherited their ideas to us with the best of intentions, and things that were also inherited to them by who knows who. But this also gives room to wonder whether there might be better belief systems than others. And by better, I mean that they help us to have a happier, more joyful, pleasant and brighter existence. Of course, to achieve this we have to do so without fear, recognizing our responsibility and participation, aware that precisely the best in life often lies beyond the fear that is overcome. Here is an example. Bertrand Russell, an English philosopher, logician and mathematician, Nobel Prize winner, published one of his most famous works, entitled Why I Am Not a Christian, in 1927. It is a very readable, amusing and easily available book. You can find it for free on the internet. Here, as in his other works, Russell offers a critique of Christianity from an ethical and social perspective. Although he is not a Buddhist, he gives a more positive assessment of Buddhism in comparison with Christianity in certain respects. Russell notes, for example, that in Buddhism there is greater emphasis on rationality and introspection. In Buddhism there is, especially in its original form, less supernatural dogma, more self-analysis and the search for truth through personal experience, while he criticizes Christianity for its reliance on faith in unquestioned dogmas and its historical resistance to science and reason. Russell also points out that in Buddhism there is an absence of an all-powerful creator God, which avoids very thorny philosophical problems, such as omnipotence and omnibenevolence, which sooner or later clash with the existence of evil and suffering. Russell also highlights the emphasis on compassion, tolerance, and the elimination of suffering in Buddhism, as opposed to the addiction to punishment shown in Christianity, which focuses on concepts such as original sin, guilt, judgment, persecution, repression, crusades, and eternal punishment. For Russell, the Christian doctrine of hell is especially immoral and oppressive, and he wonders how a loving God could destine one of his creatures, whom he knows to be fallible and improvable, to eternal punishment. Another part of Russell's analysis concerns the importance Buddhism places on personal transformation and self-responsibility through practices such as meditation and the development of wisdom, which he sees as opposed to the Christian belief in dependence on divine grace and ecclesiastical authority, which, incidentally, have manifested themselves in the imposition of laws, moral standards, and have influenced politics throughout history. Of course, Russell does not claim that Buddhism is perfect, nor does he necessarily recommend it, although he does hint that there are belief systems that are better than others in terms of their affinity with well-being and happiness, not to mention that there are many other religious belief systems, each with its pros and cons, none of which can be imposed on our souls. Now, if we take the comparison between Buddhism and Christianity a little further, we can find some very interesting differences. For example, there is no record of Buddha intentionally causing harm or casting curses against any being, as Jesus Christ did, for example with the fig tree referred to in the Gospels of Mark in chapter 11 and Matthew in chapter 21. Buddha has reincarnated countless times, supposedly up to the present day, always evolving, bringing some good, as well as specific necessary teachings. Christ, presumably, has only come once, and the next time he comes, it will be to judge and punish all those who have not done what they say he said, which in a way would make it preferable that he should not return. At the end of his ministry, Christ ascended to heaven, to sit at the right hand of the Father and scratch his belly for all eternity, or until such time as it occurs to him to return, while the Buddha, after attaining enlightenment with much effort, returned and has continued to return to help others attain enlightenment, insisting that even after attaining enlightenment one must still work to improve oneself. In Japanese Buddhism there is a wonderful teaching. Before enlightenment bring firewood and carry water. After enlightenment bring firewood and carry water. In other words, life is like riding a bicycle. Despite moments of inertia or momentum, you always have to keep pedaling. For me, the most important thing is that in existence everyone has to become their own Buddha, to find their own divine light, that light that has always shone inside you and is still there. In Buddhism it is explained that this can only be achieved through your own path, your own effort and your own experience, which is congruent with the unique and unrepeatable nature of each human being, whereas in Christianity, as it has been put to us, and as it has been historically constructed, you have to rely on others, sometimes very questionable ones, to supposedly reach God, although in fact you already find yourself in Him. At the beginning of this video I offered you a practical suggestion. It is very simple, and, although it may not be so easy, it will be of great value to you. If you practice it consciously, it will change your life for the better in more ways than one, and it is this. Instead of believing what someone says, try to understand why they say what they say. How do you live spiritually? How much do you think the responsibility of the individual counts, not only in his salvation, but in his own life here on earth? Finally, it is worth mentioning that the purpose of these reflections is not to decide whether there is any belief system necessarily better or worse, but to stimulate critical, introspective thinking, which in the end is also a divine concession, and one of the most important. Doubt is the beginning of knowledge. Questions are often absolute and answers relative. If you like this analysis, like, share, review the video description, and subscribe for more content that challenges your ideas for the better. Thanks for joining us.